distracted if you're to be here. I'll be less boring, I promise, okay? I know it's late afternoon. All right, I'll be speaking on building green web applications, a pathway to sustainable digital experiences. And before I move on, I'd like to introduce myself and why I think this is much needed right now. All right, a software engineer, just like I've been introduced, and at Sabre CWA, that's a global distribution systems company, and we just create solutions for travels. More importantly, I promote green software, right? I think of myself as an advocate, and I love to talk about sustainable software solutions. And I think that this is really necessary at this time because our world, right, evolves around the climate and the atmosphere. How many of us have heard of climate change, right? And the impact it's having right now. So we know that things are not how it used to be. The air is getting more dirtier because of the electricity, because of the carbon emissions here and there. And this is just to make us aware of the fact that with the little code that you're writing as a developer or the hardware you're using for your smart devices or to build your robots, it contributes to how the climate is changing. And even though we cannot totally eradicate it, we can do something about it to make sure that we're using the exact amount of resources that is needed when it comes to creating these solutions. Okay, well, so I'm just going to start with the simplest solution, question, which is, what are digital experiences, right? Digital experiences, in a way, are the interactions that people who use the digital tools, platforms, or services we build. And that is everything to them. Because it is what you give them that they will use, they will take as what is needed. And definitely, what this means is that the digital experience, the interactions, or the engagement goes a long way in how the users will feel comfortable in using them. Also, you are the one, as a developer or the smart device creator, that will give the user directions on what to do. And definitely, it takes a long way to show that the brands, they take a long pull on how the business will go in terms of the revenue. So the digital experience, in terms of the design, is everything. So you need to be able to come up with something innovative and accessible and, of course, enjoyable for the users, right? But in all of that, that is digital experience. But when it comes to sustainable digital experience, what does that mean? That means that you are creating something that is long-lasting. I think of it as a mindset. You know, as developers, take this as your take-home point, is that have a mindset that the solution you are developing on the website, it goes a long way in helping someone achieve something quicker, faster, right? So that is a great plus for us as developers. But nonetheless, is it really necessary in terms of the environmental impact, what you are using to build these solutions? So yeah, your solution has to foster long-term usability. Because in the long run, if your solution is not covering a lifespan of 5 to 10 years, so or it's going to damage someone's emotions. Let's take, for example, social media, right? Person that is developing Twitter, for example, right? They never knew, the developer was just developing for the sake of, oh, I just want to code. But they never knew that, oh, that channel in some years to come was going to cost someone's lives because someone tweeted a hate speech on them or something like that. So it's all encompassing. This is what I'm trying to say. But the teeny tiny bits of what we'll be looking at in today's talk is the coding aspect, is the little things that we put in our designs to make it work. All right, so here we are. What are the things that makes a digital experience sustainable? The efficient code and the low code design. So what this is all about is making sure that your code base, right, is having just the necessary code that you need. And one of the tools that, a framework that I'm sure that has helped us to fulfill this is all this modular coding. For example, take React, for example. You can reuse your code. You can have them in components such that you can reuse them in other bigger components. But even at that, when you're trying to write a code, you should make sure that the code you are writing is exactly what it will do. Don't just write a code and even if possible, try to reduce your comment code lines, right? Oh, this, that, and that. Your code should be easy to read, such that even if it's been handed off to another developer, they can understand what each line of code means. So that means that as developers, we should try to learn the best practices that are general to everyone. So just in case any other developer has to work with your code, you don't have to be writing comment sections that will make that code base a bit not efficient, right? And of course, using light frameworks. I'm sure that some of us are already doing this, but it's very important that we are aware of the fact that these little steps amount to such a great impact in our environment and even at the world at large. Energy efficient infrastructure. If you are working with cloud data centers, it's very important that you make sure that you are using energy efficient servers. Make sure that you research on your data centers and cloud servers, how they are operating, and if possible, be that developer that encourages your organization to opt for these energy efficient servers. Also, the user-centered, long-lasting designs. That is, as designers, product designers, having in mind that this product, of course, there will always be MVPs, there will always be upgrades, but the core functionality of the product, you should have a longevity in mind, the longevity mindset, that this will be used for a long period of time. How can we design it in that way? Right. Data minimization, collecting, processing, and storing only data necessary. So in your code base or wherever you store your code, you should ensure that it is having just the specific data that it's being needed for that product. You shouldn't go beyond that, right? Also, eco-conscious interactions. Now, there are some interactions on our products or solutions that, well, they are good, but if it's very possible to ensure that the interactions are minimal, it will go a long way to make sure that the digital experience is sustainable. All right, promotion of sustainable behavior. That is choosing digital alternatives to physical interactions. I'm very sure that you're aware, for people working remotely, that this has gone beyond just, having a nice job to work at or working from home. You can agree with me that this is becoming a solution for transport and sustainable transportation, because with that, you don't have to take a bus to work that will burn more fossil fuels that will cause environmental damage to people. So encouraging that and promoting that with your code in mind now, that, oh, having this least amount of code base, this and that, goes a long way in making sure that the digital experience is sustainable. How do developers and software practitioners contribute to sustainable digital experiences? Right. This is a quote that I came up with when I was reading the book, The Jewish Phenomenon. And it says that recognize that the unique contribution your work can make to a greater good. And when we see our skills intersect with purpose, we build software, we build solutions that serve not only today's needs, but tomorrow's world. And I would like us to ponder on that. This is very important, because when we are coding, we should not just be excited about the coding aspect, but we should have the mind that this is for a purpose, right? This is for a greater tomorrow, in a sense of it. Now I'm going to show us a statistics. Now, if you head on to electricitymap.org, you will find the statistics of the nations of the world. And this is just to show us the areas of the world that are, in quotes, green, right? They emit the least amount of carbon emissions. And of course, in our part of the country, that is not the case right now. Even though we are not at the extreme end, this is just a mild color brown. But for other countries, you will see, for example, over here, you'll see something lighter. But for other countries, you will see something even darker. It's good that we are at this stage for now. But I would like you to know that what you are doing with your computer, or your computer producing software solutions, do contribute to the color that this graph is showing right now. I want you to think about that, right? And over there at the left hand, you'll see the carbon intensity graph. The low carbon is just about 19 degree percentage rather, right? And that means that it is close to zero. That is not good at all. If you know what that means, it's like you have a very dirty water, like that has mud, but the concentration of the mud is just not it. It has a lot of mud in it. That's what this graph means right now, or this illustration. Now I want to introduce us to the core part of the green web application development. And this is just going to be a form of starter or introductory experience for us. I won't go too deep. But what does green web application means? Green web application, you can also look at it as green applications, or green software applications, or green mobile application, right? And that means that it's minimize environmental impact while maximizing efficiency and satisfaction. What this means is that you can do a lot with your code such that it will reduce even the cost resource in deploying that code. Because for some of us that deploy codes, we know the amount of the money that we use just to deploy them on hosts and servers and all that sort. But even with web coding, it helps you to use or maximize the resources that you are putting your money into. And it can even cut down the cost for you drastically. I brought out some core pillars of green web application or development. The first one, energy efficiency, that is optimizing code to use less power. So I don't want to go into that topic, but in the green software solution principles, we have the energy efficiency, which use the least amount of electricity, such that when it is in some part of the country right now, there's something called using your application or writing your code when the electricity is cleaner and not using or writing your code when it is dirtier. In some parts of the world, some people even, companies even go to the extent of relocating some of their integrations, their deployments to some part of the world because they know that this part of the world, mostly in Europe zone and of course in the United States as well. But optimizing your code to use less electricity. It is nice to do that. Performance optimization. Fast loading sites for a better user experience. You know that some of the images that we put on in our applications, they go a long way in making the experience. Have you been to a site where it took about 2 minutes to load the content? Right? No? Well, I've been on site that it took about 2 minutes just to load the content because of the heavy pictures and the videos. But with the knowledge of sustainable web application or sustainable coding, you get to know that, of course, images are good for visuals and interactions, but they should be compressed. Thirdly, data minimization, that is reducing data transfer and processing. And this was what I was talking earlier when I said that if possible, waiting for a time of the day when the electricity is cleaner to do your transfers and processing. Shifting your operations to those times could and will actually help your digital experiences to be sustainable. All right, so in this I'll be listing out some of the things that we can do as software practitioners, little things that we can do as software practitioners to make sure that our digital tools, products are sustainable. First is the efficient coding practices. I've mentioned that before. I talked about removing unused codes, comment lines, making sure that we are focusing on the main purpose of that code, right? Also, you should be able to use, not overusing libraries or frameworks, right, to make sure that they are lighter and faster. All these compound into optimizing your code. Also, reducing API calls. I'm sure that some of us work with API integration, and we know that we need to, when you're calling APIs, getting the response and making the request. If it's possible, we can make sure that we minimize this process, this back and forth. I'm not saying eradicate it, because definitely we need to use API, we need to make API calls, but making sure that it is cut down and used appropriately. Also, implementing caching and compression, the proper caching strategies and compressing of images and videos, right? Such that when your application is reloaded, it doesn't have to reload the image or the video. All it just needs to do is to make sure that it captures it and brings it back nicely. Also, designing user-centric minimalist interface, right? For those of us that are designers, we can go a long way in making sure that The animations that we are imputing are not too heavy so that they don't have to make the page or your solution, your software application load too fast or, load too long, right? Also, the application of the mobile first design. I'm sure you have heard of that, making sure that we design from the mobile view before we scale on to the desktop view. All right, prioritizing data efficiencies. The data minimization, we've talked about that, and also the efficient data management, right? Using data compression techniques. The data we put in our software solutions, again, do matter, ensuring that the processing do not take too long, right? They don't take too long. If it's even possible to make them modular, it will go a long way in prioritizing the efficiency of our data. All right. Last but not least is the educating your user part. Now, some of us may know of the feature that just came in a few years ago, which is the dark light mode feature. Many of us are aware of it. The dark light mode feature, right, where you can toggle between the contrast of your screen. This is a what's it called now? Sustainable digital experience. Because when you are in the dark mode, you are using less data, right? You are making the application run or processing run faster because it does not have to use more electricity to run the application, right? And of course, I put in here that using in your in-app or in-web nudges, where you can point to your users, because it does not only end with you as a developer in making the digital experience sustainable. You can also, the users as well, you can do the due diligence of making sure that your data processing and transfer are done at the right time, and the scope 1 level is done diligently well. But when you ship it out to your users, you don't know what they do with it. You don't know if they are using your application sustainably. But you can design your applications in such a way that to nudge them and help them know that, all right? You can opt for low resolution content if it's possible. If it's not necessary, you don't have to go that far, right? And the like, right? Ongoing performance optimization. And this is very important because after sending out your application or your solution, you need to do the next level optimization, thinking about how to make it more sustainable, isn't it, right? For example, you can use the Google Lighthouse. I'm sure some of us have used that feature before. I'll be giving us a demo on it shortly, whereby you can make sure you can view the amounts of your image optimization, the image level, the size of the content on your website, this, that, and that. And also, I have the SUS tool. This is the Sustainable Software Architectural Framework. This is a form of exercise for stakeholders. And I'm sure when companies are going through this exercise, they should also invite the developer to make sure that they are making their decisions in the right direction, right? To make sure that their solutions is sustainable at the long run. All right, so this is a demonstration on an application. Okay, and I'll be taking us through how I use this. If you have your laptops, you can pull up any application, any website of your choice, and go to the developer mode and check out the Lighthouse tab. This is where you find the performance of the website. At the first instance, you see the 4 metrics, which are the performance, accessibility, the best practices, and the SEO. Okay, so whatever website that you've developed, come to this feature. Use this feature to gauge the performance and the optimization of your website. And when you scroll down, you see how these 4 metrics are being broken down into chunks with their exact numbers, right? And there we have it. All right, moving on. The second tool I made mention of was the Sustainability Awareness Framework. And this tool is a tool that provides a form of structured approach to design. So it goes through a number of exercises and questions that stakeholders should have. You can take a screenshot of the QR code where it links you to the site where you can download the exercise pages. All right. Thank you for your attention, and I'd like to ask if you have any questions.